coming up. But yeah,
Okay, we are here with Andrew.
hi
Um,
there.
Andrew, what is your name? How did you meet me? And tell me a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Andrew. Last name I prefer to just keep out of it. I met this guy from random chat roulette. Got kind of bored on the 4th of July, and I figured just to kick in the holiday spirit, we just chat with some random people. And as far as myself, I like video games. I like to be the commander in chief of what I'm doing, and I like dogs, not cats.
Cool. What games do you enjoy playing?
I'm an Xbox fan mainly, loyalist, if you will. You might be able to see that action in the background. I just loaded up my console, and right now I'm on a tablet game though, known as War Dragons.
Hmm.
Uh, got some popularity. The advertisements are a little misleading, but I enjoy quite a bit of it. And I currently run my own team as an officer, trying to help people learn the game and keep them active and engaged. But it can be a little difficult as most tablet games or phone games are just repetitive.
Hmm. Cool. Now, do you game full time, or do you have like part-time work or full-time work somewhere else and just like to game when you're free, or?
I do have a job. Right now, we are currently off for a couple of weeks. So I am just gaming just to, I guess you could call video gaming my spice. It's just what I do to relax. I don't know if I'd ever be able to do it as an actual job. Uh, After all, I kind of play video games to de stress, even though to some people, video gaming can be stressful. Not for me. I can sit there for 8 or 9 hours easy as long as I have a drink, have a sandwich, and get up every now and then.
Yeah, cool.
So, you know,
And,
in the words of Destiny 1, raid on.
Are
I was
you Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Hey, you're fine. I was just saying those are good days. I miss those days.
Hmm. Have you been did you go to college? Did you graduate college or did you choose
I
to go at
did
all?
actually.
Mhm.
After a few years of just kind of sitting around doing nothing, I got a bit of a push to get stuff in my life organized. And after a while, I decided it'd be fun to learn how to work on cars. So I went and got a associate's degree at Ivy Tech Community College uh, for automotive technology, and learned how to do light vehicle diagnostics and repair, along with some body work. Never got to use the education in a professional stance, though, but for the most part, I went and learned from my own. I didn't really see myself doing it as a profession. Would have been interesting, though.
Hmm.
Uh, but at my age, even though I may not look that old, trying to find a new career just isn't worth it anymore. I got to get settled in somewhere, get my retirement plans figured out, and just bear with it. But I do enjoy the aspect of what I learned.
Did
I like to work on my own vehicle. I like to help people diagnose theirs if they're having simple car trouble. And I could always go back in a couple of years and maybe learn something else. Right now, I'm thinking welding.
Oh wow, that's so you really enjoy working with your hands, like doing mechanical things.
Anything that's mechanical or building is something I do. It's something I do in my video games a lot. One game in particular, Arc. Strangely enough, those are my initials. Uh, there's
Hmm.
a It's a survival game, but the gist of what I like to do in that is the same thing as I do with other games, just on a different aspect. You build and survive. You craft your own supplies, gather your resources, build your own base. I mean, when I say build it, I mean you build it. You put down the floor panel before you can put down the wall. And I can fabricate some pretty interesting stuff that way. It lets me use the creativity of my mind.
Wow.
So if it's not battle strategies from an RTS game, then it's a building aspect of creation.
Now, did you have a good high school experience? Did you enjoy high school or education or
Hmm.
that part of your life?
I have to say no. No, I didn't have what you would call a popular life in high school. I was more the oddball out. Uh, at least up until about is it 10th grade, I believe, is sophomore year. Up until about sophomore year, everything was kind of a loner program. After that, though, uh, the bullying stopped. I guess the
Mm.
picking on people stopped in their heads because they were starting to mature themselves. And well, me, I just stopped caring. I stopped having uh, an opinion about what other people thought. If I did something and they didn't like it, I just kind of didn't care anymore. So that allowed me to just kind of be free of thinking on that aspect, and as a result, I was able to just go with the flow more than likely, and that helped me out on adapting to situations. And then came video gaming. Uh, Next thing you know, I found myself video gaming a lot, just talking with virtual people online, because it was an intellectual challenge. Old farming buddy of mine, he and I would have what I like to call a verbal sparring contest.
A debate, huh?
Exactly. And that's what I would do on Xbox, except it was a little bit more intense than that because you're also playing the game. You're not just trying to argue with somebody about politics.
So
But still, I had fun.
what stance do you normally take in a political debate?
Mm. Well, I'm not so much for the what the big words are, so I'm just going to say I support the Second Amendment.
Okay,
That's
cool.
about as simple as I can put it. But you'd have to ask me a more detailed question in regarding ongoing situations. But I don't follow politics, so I would get my information from you before I actually be able to give you a response.
Absolutely.
My news feed is my Facebook. If somebody doesn't post it to their feed for me to see, I don't see it, and therefore I don't care about it because, in my opinion, it's all drama.
Yeah,
But
what are your thoughts of social media? Like in what ways is it good, and in what ways do you think it's a detriment to you or society?
mm, oh, good answer. Ready for that one. I had Facebook years ago when I was just a younger lad, and I noticed immediately within a couple of months I kept getting on almost constantly. This is when Facebook, I believe, was a lot different. But I noticed I was getting on almost all the time just to see if there was something to do. And I stopped using Facebook for that reason, actually. I didn't feel like that was a healthy way of living. Felt like I was being like magnetized into the social media.
Mm.
Get like you get on the computer or you get on your phone, and the first thing I do is I hit Facebook to see if I've got a notification or something
Yeah, you
that
get sucked in, right? Yeah.
that needs to be responded to. And I just thought this isn't productive. It's more of an addiction uh, where I'm relying on seeing a notification, and I didn't like that. So I stopped using it for years. So when I finally got back on, I'd say over 10 years later, uh, now I just kind of use it as a newspaper. If somebody wants to get a hold of me, they can. Otherwise, if I see something funny or maybe insulting to other people, I'll post it, share it. Depends on whether or not somebody else posted it first. And after that, I just close the app out. Check it about once a day, and that's it.
Hmm.
But as far as my stance on where social media is leading the younger generations or generations of now, I'd have to say it's not good. Everywhere I go, people are on their phone. I'm assuming they're on some kind of social media, whether it's Snapchat, TikTok, I believe is the new craze, or Facebook. Uh, Whatever happened to just sitting down and hanging out with a bunch of people and actually talking with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, we're in the same boat. That's what we're doing right now, man, you know?
That's why I went to chat roulette. I was just trying to see if anybody actually talks anymore. Strangely enough, they don't seem to. Maybe they don't want to anymore. Maybe.
Well, I mean, but I gotta, disagree because we're talking right now. Like actually you had a question, do people actually have conversations? And it turns out that people actually, are interested in your thoughts and interested in listening a little bit, I mean, people are also interested in jacking off.
Well, they've got a filter for that though now. It looked like I don't remember seeing that last time I logged in. Sometime last year.
Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah,
don't remember.
This was the first time I've been on chat roulette in a while, and they got rid of that like the text box and everything. And
They got rid of everything, it looked like. When last time I remember being on there, I could have sworn there were ads on both sides of my screen.
mm.
Hmm. But I do like the filter. The filter allows me to moderate whether I want to
See a
get
dick or
an
what?
exactly. But I mean, you got to see both sides of any argument to be able to actually get your information. It's like Star Wars. The bad guy, Chancellor Palpatine, he was right, even though he was a villain. You can't just study the light side of the Force and call the dark side bad if you've never actually looked into it.
Mm.
So while I'm not really a fan of seeing dicks constantly, you do wonder how many people are actually there to jack off versus, I don't know, practice seduction. I don't know.
Practice, just like want to actually connect and talk to someone, you know?
Right, that's what the other filter was for. So that's what I went on when I realized the first one was just, it's just going to be dicks. You're not going to get anybody interesting there. But like I said, you gotta study all aspects of it if you're gonna get a actual result.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you
Now,
just fabricate the entire test.
now you said that you like dogs, and I heard a little squeaky toy. Is that one of your roommates, or was that your dog?
That's my little friend.
Yeah.
Uh, she's a border collie Australian Shepherd mix. Got her about 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and she and I have been good friends ever since. We've had our ups and our downs, of course. We had our first argument, which she was probably a month and a half old. Found a burger in the yard somewhere and decided to eat it. I didn't like that, so I tried grabbing it from her. Well, that didn't end up too well for me.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't end up too well for her either. Once we got back inside, though.
Mm. What?
Uh,
Yeah. What do you think about like disciplining animals or children? Like, do you think that hitting them, yeah, what do you think is the best way to deal
hmm.
with that?
Well, that depends on if you want the answer to appease the certain groups or if you just want an honest answer. My direct would be spare the rod, spoil the child, because I've seen firsthand that effect. Had I not been rotted, if you will,
Hmm.
uh, personally, I probably would have turned out to be even more of a dick than most people know me to be.
Hmm.
Uh, my dad made me pick out my own pear twig once.
Make you what?
Pick out my own pear twig. We had a pear tree in the backyard. He said, "Go out there, pick out a branch, and bring it back."
Wow.
Then he would spank you over the ass with it.
Do you think that do you think that discipline was helpful for you, or do you think there
I
could have
do
been a
now.
different way?
I
Hmm.
do now. I didn't
Why? Why?
back
Why?
well, back then it was just child abuse, in my opinion. It just hurt a lot. But I mean, you're only a kid back then. You're only going to have one thought, and that's whatever the first thing is. First thing that happens when you get hit is pain. So your first thought is hurt or abuse. But you don't really understand until you get older the reason behind it, such as bullying, for example. You deal with a bully in the same way. You don't turn the other cheek. That just gives them an opportunity to continue striking you. If you stand up for yourself and actually fight back, yes, schools will frown on that because you're beating somebody up. But at the same time, it goes back to the old animal principle: kill or be killed, just in a downscale view. So now, looking back on it, I thank my father for the discipline I got because I realize now that if I do piss off the wrong people, uh, physical abuse may hurt, but the same concept can be applied to whatever they do. It's not just physical abuse, it's the what's the word I want to look for? It's the punishment aspect of it. It's not the fact that you're getting beaten. They're beating you because anything other than that may not work. If the kid doesn't have toys, you can't take them away to punish him. If uh, if the kid only has the ability to see his friends once a week, you can take that away. But if your only real punishment is just to give them a quick strike around the ass because they don't have toys, you don't have technology, and you live out in the middle of the country, it's about the only punishment they can do, right? So that principle applies when they get older. They do something bad, they realize they've been punished, and as they get older, punishments get different. You screw up at work, you lose your job. You screw up in a relationship, you lose your friend. But it all goes back to that core thought of my parents punished me when I did this. And then it clicks.
Mm.
That's why they did it. It wasn't to punish you, it was to teach you, but you only see one aspect of it at such a young age. It's necessary. It's a
Yeah,
tool, but it
I
is necessary.
I have I guess I have a different perspective of it. I think like if you like if a child is does something wrong, I think the world naturally punishes us enough
Like a
where
opposite?
like and that what's important is like is support is support is first like if some like let's say you um I don't know like what is something that is worth what's something well okay let's say that you like I don't know stole something from the local store. You're 10 years old, you stole something from the local store,
Hmm.
and somehow you were caught with it. Like I think
Well, who caught you? Let's start with that. Were you caught by the store or were you caught by your parents at home?
let's say caught by the parents at home. to
Okay.
to make to make to make my point is that I think right off the bat the parent needs to be like, okay, what you did was wrong. Like you have to return that and you have to pay for it plus interest. And also you're not gonna, you're not gonna get an allowance, or you're not gonna be able to, you're grounded for a week, or, whatever so that there has to be that. But I think that, I think that, you know, like physically hurting a child like that doesn't, I guess I just don't know what that does. Because like
It depends
children
on
already,
depends on the
well, wait, hold on one second. I just want to finish
okay.
this thought. Is like, I think that the kid knows that punishment, that there is going to be a punishment and that there is a punishment. But if they also know that the parents are there to support the child, you know, not saying like, oh, that's fine, like saying, okay, there are consequences, that was wrong, but we still love you, that we still love you. But I think all those things, plus also knowing like that the world is going to punish you anyway, I think that's just a more loving way to go about it, while also covering all the bases that need to be covered. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it boils down to what works. I mean, in an instance
Mm.
of petty theft, if the punishment of simply having the child go through the embarrassment of taking the item back, having to pay for it out of their own allowance money, maybe lose their next month allowance as a result, they learn the hard lesson of finances, which, if taught right, will hurt bad enough. The embarrassment can be a powerful tool, but
Yeah.
at the same time, that can actually grow resentment. Uh,
Interesting.
and then, I mean, the last one, there is no need for a physical punishment if the other two or other methods on top of that can get by. But in the end, it really just depends on the base upbringing. Um, you just got to,
Interesting.
it's like a general teaching on anything, really. What works for that particular student. Some students will learn better hands on, others learn from watching videos, others might work better from just reading a description in a book.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there's no real way to test proper punishment on a child without having to go through all of them. So that's
Hmm.
really a tricky concept because I mean you can't necessarily just go around beating every single child to see which ones will react to it. I'm
Interesting. Right.
sure
Yeah.
everybody's heard the phrase that the sometimes the threat of the blow is more effective than the blow itself, and that is because the pain goes away eventually. But that's where I feel that you know, beating or spanking as a punishment, that was an old school method back, well, from my father's days. Uh, with me, if I ever had kids, I'd probably take a more what's the word I want to look for?
Like
Tangible
measured approach or something? Measured?
tangible approach with
Hmm.
personal belongings. Uh, for example, if my kid were to grow up to play video games too, or ride his bike a lot, you do something wrong, especially using something of yours to commit that problem. Uh, such as if you stole something and you and your friend ran away on your bikes, well, you're going to lose your bike for one, and then you're going to return the stolen property. You're going to pay for it, and you're not getting any more money for a while until you learn the value of it. And if you try and tell me that you stole that because you just really wanted it, then let me show you something I really want. Here's a picture that I've been saving. Now, see, this here is your dad's favorite car, but it costs about $60,000, and he'll never be able to earn it unless he goes to work every day. But when you do things like break your toys and ruin your clothes, and I have to go and spend my money to earn more money to get that stuff replaced or fixed, what do you think that does to something daddy wants? You make the kid realize that he's not the only one that wants things, and things just have to come in time.
Yeah, that is like such a mature, appropriate response to like compared to like the old way of like, beating, yeah, it just seems more logical, more effective, and it also treats the child like they're a human being that can think too, instead of just like the parents assuming that this kid is dumb and you know what I mean?
I do indeed.
Yeah, I think we agree with that.
But I mean, that same teaching goes down to a lot of things, and that's part of the problem. People seem to think that kids are dumb. They're actually not.
No, not at all. Yeah.
They actually learn better at a younger age. There's 5-year-olds out there who can work a computer better than I can. So, I mean, what's that tell you? It's really just about the upbringing. If you teach them about money, they'll understand it sooner.
Do you have siblings and do you still like have a relationship to your parents?
My parents are dead,
Okay.
and I don't have any siblings.
When did your parents pass away, if I can ask?
Well, I never had a mother. I was adopted, and my father died back in 2010.
Wow. Was
So
that
it's been
was
a few years.
was that a difficult experience?
Hmm. More of a confusing experience for me. I didn't have what you would call a close relationship with my father, but by that point, I was starting to do my own thing. But given the situation, it was more of just well, there was no preparation for
Hmm.
what to do after he died. So for me, there was just a lot of questions. But he had a will and testimony written out. Uh, Lawyers got involved and did their thing. So it bought me some time to do my thinking, processing. But I wouldn't say it was difficult because the relationship just wasn't there.
Hmm.
I will admit I understand a few of the things he would talk about now that he's gone.
Like what?
Well, just some of the behaviors he would have seem to make more sense to me now than just back when I was younger. I noticed a lot when we would watch a movie together, even if it was just a comedy. He seemed to be really into it, and I just couldn't figure out why a grown man like that was into such a comedy. Now, as I get older, I think I understand. It's a throwback. As you get older, you want to relive your youth. By his age, he was in his 50s, I think, when he adopted me. Uh, it would make sense that he would want to try to relive his youth a little bit. So he would pull out an old comedy movie or, try to get me involved in something he did when he was younger. And back then, it didn't make any sense. Why am I working with something so outdated? Or why are we watching such a classic, as it was called? Well, now I know why, because now some of the things I watch in my spare time on a Saturday would be considered classics.
Mm.
But they're just throwbacks. They're just memories.
Mm.
This behavior like that just it sticks out more whenever it's not there anymore. But that's because you start thinking about it. When something disappears out of pattern, you start wondering why it was there to begin with. Then you might realize why it was there. Otherwise, it can have a different effect. Something disappears out of pattern, and instead of wondering why it was there, you wonder why it hadn't been there the whole time. Kind of like an improvement to a website or a video game. Sometimes they add in a new feature just a installation too late. Other times they'll fix it almost immediately, and you're just like, yes, now this is much better. Now it's a good game. Sadly, I don't think EA is ever going to get the concept of loot boxes out of their game. But you know what? That's okay. I don't buy their games anymore. I really look forward to Star Wars Battlefront 2, and not anymore.
Yeah, now that they totally dropped the ball on that game, man. Like the multiplayer option with the space battles, like that was so good. And what they just completely dropped the ball.
They did. I don't think they even have space battles anymore. Now they want to
No.
make a separate game for that. And I liked Galactic Conquest.
Yes.
That was my absolute favorite because there was the strategy behind it.
Exactly.
They got rid of that. They made custom loadouts, which everybody, I mean, in the first Battlefront, everybody was the exact same. Everybody had two weapons. They had a jetpack, and they had this charge-up sniper rifle to hit you from afar.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's like, okay, that's great. Where are the different units here? And I counted the units, actually. Uh, yeah, there were about 20 people per server. Great. But the maps were it just wasn't the same because everybody played the exact same way. They hit on the outside, or they tried to cheat their way on top of rocks you're not supposed to be getting to. So there was no actual combat feel to it. And then on top of that, why are they sticking to this outdated Rebels Empire era?
Hmm.
There was a much better era. It worked out a lot better for the video games, at least, with the clones and the droids and
Oh yeah, that was that yeah. With those roly poly ones that like after they open up they have like the
the droidica.
defense field. Yeah, droid is that what it's called, a droidica?
Well, they called it a destroyer droid, but the actual name is droidica.
Oh, those things are like so badass.
Oh, they're my favorite. There's a known combination called back to tank and droidica. If you in the Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original, if you were to use that combination in your battle, you could deploy from ball mode, use your repeater guns to take out a few targets real quick, and then if you had enough health left to get your shield up, your shield would then absorb damage while your health regenerated, and then you just switch.
Oh, that's cool.
With some of the new versions on that Star Wars Battlefront 2, you could still be deadly like that, but with all these loot boxes and pay to win options, I mean, all it takes is somebody with 100 extra bucks in their paycheck, and they can unlock all that maxed tier stuff
I don't
immediately.
get that. What? Like it's so dumb. It seems just like I don't know, so desperate. I mean, are you really going to pay to win and like why not just try to win with nothing? Like isn't there more glory to that, more honor? I don't know.
Well, there's two arguments for that though. I like to call people who pay to advance, and then there's pay to win. For example, my War Dragons game, I call that pay to advance, not pay to win, because in the game, I'm not sure how well we'll be able to see this.
Sure, yeah.
You can see a base there, and you can see I'm building a couple of towers. Now, if I buy a couple of their $100 packs and give myself a bunch of timers or chests during a building event, I can score a lot more points during the event, and I can complete my buildings a lot faster. But since I know the end game, there's only really one option, and that's pay to advance. Since the end game, there is none. I mean, they have a new feature called Atlas, and I believe there's some kind of wind there. But for the most part, you just continuously level up and continuously unlock more dragons.
Hmm.
But I don't know what the end game is, and since I really don't care, since I know it's going to take me a long time, and by long time I mean a couple of years, unless I every day play it, which I do. I just don't constantly. So the only pay to win option I would have would be to win for that event. Problem is, the event like that is every 3 months. They have one every month. Every 3 months is a season. There's 4 seasons in every year, and every season has multiple events, three of which are the same one.
Hmm.
So you can pay if you want. Sure, you want to pour out $1,000, that's fine. But I've done the math. You're not going to get very much advancement out of that, and you're not going to win because there's no end game. But
Interesting.
in a game like Star Wars Battlefront, the end game is pretty much the final battle. Every battle is the end game. Either that or they just really want to stay on that leaderboard.
Hmm.
Kind of like I'm not sure if Call of Duty has packs that you can buy.
They do. They have this thing called Battle. Yeah, that's the game I play. I play well Fortnite, of course. I mean, but not really. I mean, I'm so bad at it compared to some of these guys who can build like in 5 seconds. I don't know if you play Fortnite.
No, no, I'm not going to share my thoughts on that one because I may offend somebody.
but
I'm going to say no and move on.
but Call of Duty Warzone is what that's what I play. That first
Mm.
person shooter. Oh, it's so much
Yeah,
fun.
I've my friends keep trying to get me into that, but personally, Call of Duty, my catchphrase for that is the same game with a different name every year. Sadly, a lot of my favorites are turning into that same concept, though.
Hey, if it makes the moolah, then it's gonna keep happening.
It can make them move all they want. It's just not going to come from me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped buying new games a few years ago. Now I wait for the game to come out. I look at the reviews, and I even try to look up some videos if I want before I buy it now
I do
because
have to say though, the Warzone is free. The
it is,
battle royale, it is
it is
free,
free.
so
I
you
saw
can.
that, but it's still Call of Duty.
Oh,
I
you're insistent. You're
I just
insistent.
feel like the game's just going to be the same. Weapons are going to be the same. Perks are going to be the same, and the people are going to be the same. Running around with their little dual Cambodi weapons or whatever that thing is called, and ghost my spinal cord right now with their little knife. I
So
don't
I
know.
wanna. I feel like we could keep talking. And you know what? If this is something that you enjoy, you can absolutely like email me back, and we can have another interview a little later on. But I want to ask you one more question before we get going. Is just in terms of like the state of the world right now. I know you said that you really don't pay attention to the news, which probably makes you much happier and more content and I haven't been watching news much at all lately either. But what are your thoughts of like, all of these protests with after the killing of George Floyd
Mm.
and yeah, just like what's your perspective of that?
Well, in the direct response to the killing of that man, I feel like the killing itself, if what have seen is what happened, it was not, just. It was murder. If the video is indeed what happened, then again, I don't know why he was being arrested, but I also don't know why somebody who was subdued, handcuffed, and completely unarmed, not resisting, had a probably 200-pound cop on his neck. The protest to follow uh, depends on what your definition of protest is, I suppose, because I mean, there's two kinds. There's peaceful, and there's not peaceful. There's the protests that are being done in the middle of a highway, blocking everyday traffic. I mean, uh, if I have to get to work and people start blocking my path to work, I mean, does me trying to get to work mean I don't care about what they want me to care about? Does that
Mhm.
mean I don't have an opinion? It just means I have to get to work. I've got my bills to pay. I've got rent to pay. I've got my own life. But I mean, that doesn't mean I'm not agreeing with it. That means I'm not disagreeing with it. I just feel like the protests, as far as the violent ones, are unnecessary. If you want to have a peaceful protest, we have rules and stipulations for that. Stay out of the road, hold up your sign, chant if you want, but don't impede or enforce your beliefs on other people. It's the same as religion. It's the same with these masks, with this COVID crap. Everybody keeps saying follow the law, wear the mask. Well, first of all, last time I checked, it's not a law to wear a mask. But if that's your philosophy on wearing the mask, then I sure hope you're not out there protesting in the middle of the street, because then you'd be contradicting yourself. You want to protest? By all means, protest. It was wrong. I get that. But don't be rioting. Don't be destroying businesses just because you're angry. If you want to be heard, then instead of just chanting, we want justice, throw out an idea. Uh, Ask for the cops to be taken to court. Ask for the death penalty if you feel like they deserve it. Have them fired. Actually give out an idea, get some support, maybe even get some people together, get a GoFundMe going, and try to hire a lawyer. You know, Sue them on behalf of the people if you can do that. But do not enforce, do not pressure your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas onto other people. Because if you would not want them to enforce their beliefs on you, then why are you doing it to them in the name of somebody else who was just wrongfully killed? If I die tomorrow, if I get pulled over for a taillight or license plate, or, well, I had an incident actually a month ago or so. I I was out driving my car and the rear tire blew, and I had this police officer eventually pull up behind me. Now, of course, I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no town in front of me. There's no real town behind me. I'm in the middle of a black road, so it's just me and a cop. Now, if he had gunned me down and made up whatever story he wanted, would there be a protest and a riot for me? Would people care that I was just wrongfully killed if they could prove it? Who knows? But if there was, and they could, I wouldn't want people to go around destroying a Wendy's or a Taco Bell saying get justice. No. I I based on what I believe, I would want them to just contact a lawyer, use the evidence to convict the cop, and if the justice system fails the people as it has before, uh, you got to just try to keep fighting it legally. I would not condone violence on others unless it's absolutely necessary, because I do support the Second Amendment, because we do need to protect ourselves from a dictatorship and a tyrannical government. So I'm not saying go out there and kill the cops. Bad idea. Also, not justice. But by all means, there has to be a law that has to be enforced. We have to try to get a law that allows somebody, either with a stun gun, if it has to be a lethal firearm, fine, but we can't allow these wrongful killings to go on. I say if you want to protest George's death, I say we push for a new law. I think we have one in my state, where if you feel like your life is being unlawfully threatened by a police officer, you have the right, if I guess, want to risk it, because you'd have to prove that your life was being unlawfully threatened, you have the right to lethally take defensive action. Now,
What state is that? Is that Oregon?
I believe it's Indiana, actually.
Okay.
I've heard there's one like that in our state. I believe that
Okay.
Oregon was another state that has that law or something similar to it. But I feel like if there was a law like that where George had died, and somebody was allowed to pull out a stun gun or at least tackle the cop off the guy and not be shot dead, it wouldn't have happened the way it did. But as a lot of people in the post I saw on my own Facebook feed said, what were they supposed to do? If somebody had walked up to the cop and tried to pull him off, the cop that got pulled off, or the others, probably would have just pulled their guns and shot that guy dead. Now you got two people dead. So it's really, they're protesting the wrong thing. It's a wrongful death, and the family needs to take their legal action on that. But as far as the protesters go, protest it right, but you can't just stand there and scream. You got to actually give an idea.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, yeah, you're very well, you're very articulate in your thoughts, and I really appreciate that. And you come at it from a very different perspective from a lot of the people that I know. I'm involved in like the theater world, and I've gone to like a liberal arts college and a good high school, and and I think there's a lot of what you're saying, and I wish that I had written down notes, but I was just so, yeah, just listening to you. And I think, in terms of, um, I think I don't know the statistics, the real statistics of this, but I'm pretty sure that, um, and I believe it, that there is a there is a fear in some some of these police officers that whenever, let's say that you were a black man on this road, this dark road, and it was just you as a black man and the cop. I think that if you were black, you there would be a higher chance of that police officer perceiving you as dangerous if you were black than if you were white.
Mhm. But why is that?
I think it's a natural bias that we have in our culture. I think that
Right.
I think as a culture we and I think that white people are racist towards black people. I also think black people are racist towards black people. I think that there are structural like societal norms that are conditioned into us to think that black people are dangerous, you know? And I think that's what, and this is the thing, right? Is like I think that to be able to change things, we have to legislate, definitely, like you were talking about. I'm gonna share on the description after I post this to YouTube. This video about anti-corruption, which is actually one of the main things that I'm talking about to everyone, and I think it's the way to kind of change things in America because like these people are protesting. There are gun safety protests. There are Black Lives Matter protests, and there are also a lot of conservative movements that are pushing for legislation, and none of them are getting passed by Congress. Why is that? It's because
Well,
Congress is in the pockets of big money interests, dark money groups that
it's
have
control.
power over them. What is that?
Exactly. It's control.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like the people, we don't have any say in what legislation is going to get passed. And that is a travesty. We don't have a democracy anymore, um, and so I'm going to post that video to the video. I'm going to post that link to the video so you can check it out after I send it to you. So that's one thing. That was part of a bigger thought that um,
You lost the
uh,
thought, didn't you?
yeah, I did. Yeah, because I went on a rant on anti-corruption.
But
That's
it
what.
makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if there is a cure for cancer and we don't have it yet, it's simply because they want to be able to charge you for your own life, which in turn brings up the nice debate. How much is a human life worth? Well,
Yeah,
that depends. How much is it worth? Because I'll tell you right now, to me, my life is worth everything to me.
yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
to anybody else out there, it could be worth the amount of paper in my wallet. And that right there is just the concerning thought.
Mm.
But I mean, that type of message gets passed along all the time, very subtly in your movies, if people actually watch them. That line I actually took is actually from Avatar.
Mm.
Avatar, I think it's just called Avatar, I believe, but it's the one with the blue people, the Navi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But at the
The
beginning,
flying Smurfs, right? Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
yeah.
The main character, I don't know his actor name. I'm going to use his character name in the movie, was Sully. And he explained that his brother was supposed to ship out, but someone killed him, and he said for the paper in his wallet.
Mm.
It's the same thing. Somebody could kill me, when I'm out walking my dog. For the paper, they think I have my wallet. So to them, my life was worth whatever is in my back pocket. But in the moment, if my life were to be threatened, I mean, again, it's kill or be killed because to me, my life is worth everything to me.
Mm.
So,
Oh,
you're going to fight.
yeah. I think I remember what I was going to say about these protests is that I think that um, a big reason that these protests are like, out in the highway and everything is I think the intention there, and it's really difficult to try to communicate this because there's just a miscommunication, I think, is that I think the Black Lives Matter movement that is supporting George Floyd and the awareness of the unjust killing and of the unjust killing of a lot of black unarmed black people, you know, is I think what that the intention there is to think, look, like, okay, yes, we're inconveniencing you getting to work, but just think how inconvenienced we are as black people all the time, that we have to be
Mhm.
that we have to live in fear of just like being
Interesting.
unjustly put to the side, whereas like so many white people aren't discriminated against for certain things that they do where we are discriminated, you
So,
know
white privilege? That's the phrase, isn't it? That's what they would call
it's yeah, I guess so.
it. It's the one I've heard used before. They call it white privilege. They say you're white, you're privileged.
The thing is that if I were to say like, hey, like, check your white privilege, that like what that doesn't
No,
communicate the substance of it, right?
no, and
It
it's actually, I mean, actually, depending on how you say it and who you say it to, that's either insulting or just, I mean, right now, it's funny because I know you don't mean it, but if somebody were to come up to me, if somebody black, for example, were to come up to me at work and say, "Hey, check your white privilege," while I'm sitting at a table eating my lunch, I would be like, "What are you talking about? What white privilege? I'm just sitting here." You know, I may not
and
see what he sees. Maybe I'm sitting somewhere that he usually is not allowed to sit. So,
and
I
I
mean,
yeah.
depends on circumstance. So they are protesting in the middle of the roads, trying to inconvenience people, but that's because I feel like they might feel they're not being heard.
Hmm.
But a lot of those protests I've seen, I mean, it's hard to tell how many black people are actually in that crowd.
And that's interesting too, right?
So, I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's actually a Black Lives Matter thing. I think it's just they want to be heard. They want their opinion to be heard and they want to see an actual change.
Mm.
And they only know how to do that in one way. Uh, Problem is, they have limited power as the people. I mean, you they didn't storm Area 51. They knew how that would probably end. So, I mean, it's the same concept here. They can't storm Congress. They can't storm the White House and demand new legislation. They can't drag the current senators out and get new ones put in. So the only other people they can inconvenience are the ones every day.
Mm.
It's honestly it's like a wounded animal. They're just lashing out because they aren't being helped. They're not being heard.
Yeah, yeah.
If a wounded animal is not helped, I mean, if you walked around with a thorn, if you walked around with a nail in your foot all day, how would you feel? Anybody just tap you on the shoulder, you'd feel like you got attacked. Uh, you ever heard the term hangry?
Yeah,
It's
yes.
actually funny. I never noticed it until it was said. But yeah, I noticed that when I get a little hungry or sometimes just even hot from working, the environment, it changes the way you behave. It's discomfort, but not all discomfort is physical. Some discomfort is mental. That's
Yeah,
stress.
certainly. Certainly. Anxiety, right? Yes,
Somebody
yes.
gets killed in your town. The next thing you know, your town's starting to riot. Well, that inconveniences you. I mean, even if you're not part of the Black Lives Matter movement, because you don't want to you got things to do. You can't waste your time or spend your time however you want to look at it out there protesting. That's fine. They start a riot. Next thing you know, you think about it. There's a riot going on a couple blocks from where I live. Is my house in danger next? Next thing you know, you go to work. You're stressed out. You're thinking about it. You get a little hot. All of a sudden, all that stress starts piling up. You're just sitting there thinking about it, and your boss comes up to you and says, "You need to get back to work," and you're just started your 10-minute break. you're going to lash out, whether you know it or not, and whether it's justified or not. That could get you fired right then and there. It's not just, it's not justifiable, but all the things that just fell in line to just make that happen, to people who know the situation, they're going to say, okay, that, that's similar to the unrightful killing. They were there or they saw the video. It doesn't look right. It wasn't fair. But to somebody who wasn't there, they don't know the video. They only heard the story. Somebody just got fired because they yelled at their boss. You're going to start getting all these people. Well, yeah, they yelled at their boss. Of course, they're going to get fired for mouthing off. Two different views. Nothing you can really do about it because you can't get both sides to hear the same story. So,
Yeah.
the only outcome is going to be that the person affected and their immediate group are just going to start lashing out until their side of the story is heard. Same thing with the same protesters. The ones closest to the confrontation are just trying to be heard. Nobody's listening.
Yeah, I think the solution is actually something that we're doing right now. Is actually literally talking about it and then getting more people to just sit down and try to talk in a similar way, Like it's just really hard because people don't want to feel uncomfortable, I guess. People just don't want to put themselves out there and actually have conversations, be proactive about conversations, right? I think that's
Well, that's the other side of the argument, though. Some people are saying we've talked enough about it. Now, what are we going to actually do about it? So even if you get enough people to sit down and talk about it, once they agree that there is a problem, you still have to find the solution and then actually
solutions.
do something with it.
Yeah, have a compromise. Yeah, find a compromise. Be willing to like each side needs to be willing to give and take. Yeah, I guess I want one last question. Man, I think we've been talking for like an hour. This is great.
I do not know. I can't see a clock right now. Clock's
Yeah,
over there.
no, there's no clock on here either. But what are your thoughts of like what's been going on with like the Democratic primaries and like Biden and Bernie and all those people and with Trump and the Republican Party?
Well, being someone who hasn't actually followed much of any of the political debate as far as who's getting elected or why,
Have you? I just got to ask you quickly. Have you? Do you vote in the elections?
I do not actually. I have a stance on that, and it's commonly seen to a lot of the people I tell as the wrong one, but my it's the way I handle
It's
it.
your stance.
It's
Yeah,
my stance exactly.
yeah.
Uh,
I'd love to hear your thoughts of that too. Whenever you're
right. I don't vote simply because I don't want to be part of the problem, but that's just a opinion of mine because I feel like if I vote for the wrong person and they tear apart America, then great, I just put the devil in office. But the same concept can be said for the fact that if I don't vote and somebody gets put in office, you could have been the one that changes it. But my stance all boils down to the fact that I don't actually feel like my vote makes a difference. They give you the right to vote to make you feel like you're contributing. All they do is count the majority, and then they just tip the numbers to the person who paid more to get in, or for the most part, is more favored, the lesser of two evils, if you will. After all, somebody has to win. And if putting one person in the office means tearing the country apart and the other means pleasing more of the country, put them in office.
so do you think does that theory hold with Trump's election in 2016, or did that change your idea of things after he was elected?
Well, I will admit it created a lot of funny memes when he got elected. But no, I don't. I don't feel like it really changed that much. Actually, at the beginning of his term, I seem to see a lot of people quite happy with his election. Uh, there were MAGA, I think MAGA, Make
Hmm.
America Great. Yeah, MAGA. There were MAGA hats being worn everywhere. Trump this, Trump that. There was even a video I saw on YouTube about somebody putting fake Hollywood stars, I think it was, all up and down the boardwalk with Trump on it. That was actually a pretty catchy video. But looking at it now, Here we are at 2020. I'm not actually sure if Trump's the one actually doing anything. I've always felt like the president's just a figurehead. He's just the icon. Doesn't actually do much of anything. He's the fall guy, if you
Yeah,
will.
kind of like the cultural figure, exactly.
Mhm. He's the fall guy. People just want somebody to yell and blame. But I mean, from what I've heard about a lot of bills that are being passed and aren't being passed, it's not Trump stopping them. It's the House. Last time I checked, Trump is not the House. Trump is just Trump, just president. He has some authority, but a lot of the authority goes to the House. So honestly, I'm not even sure what to believe in more because I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. So I stay out of the votes. Uh, your other question that you asked before that, what was that again?
Yeah, the just your thoughts of like the Republican Party and the
That's right. The
Democratic Party.
party is available.
Yeah,
Uh,
and all the kind of players that you know about and what your thoughts of them are.
a lot of support seems to be going to this female, JoJo, I believe, is what I've been seeing. Uh, based on just the information I have, I'm not really sure if we have any new candidates that would be appropriate. I feel like some of them are just trying to get into office just for show. I feel like others are trying to get into office to try new implementations, but they just won't work because people don't see the plan yet, or others may not trust it. And then you've got some of the creepy old people I've been seeing going around sniffing people. I saw several posts about that. That is actually a little concerning. The
Talking
way,
about Joe Biden sniffing fingers or whatever.
not just fingers. Somebody posted quite a few photos of the way he's interacted with people, and you can actually see their discomfort on their face. I'm not sure if you want somebody like that trying to run the country. So honestly, I'm not really sure if we have a good candidate. I think the people would just try to go with what they think works. And right now, I believe they still think Trump is being uh, used. So I feel like if Trump's still a candidate, I think he'll get elected again. But that's just because the people are either we're being blinded and he is being used, or he's going to be elected because we are just stupid. But there's no way for me to really have a side because, I mean, I don't even believe in COVID.
Hmm.
Uh, is there a virus going out? Possibly. I mean, it's cost me work, which has cost me money, and that's made some things difficult.
Yeah, the
It's cost,
perception is certainly real. The
it's
perception of
cost,
it is certainly real.
it's cost people lives, from what I understand. But I mean, then you hear stories about fake hospitals being popped up. You hear about false death certificates saying that a heart attack was caused by COVID or a car crash, and yet he was infected with COVID, so he died of that for whatever reason. So my opinion just sways to the uh, the undecisive again because none of the facts are consistent and everything just seems fabricated like a news story. But that's what it is, isn't it? It's just a news story. The news picks what stories are either allowed or will get the highest ratings. So who knows what to believe? So I guess it all boils down to just what I see in my own world right now. And right now there is no COVID where I live. We have no outbreaks. I haven't heard.
You said this is in Indiana, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I haven't given the city for
Oh yeah,
potential.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, from what I've heard, we don't have outbreaks right now. We don't have any serious cases, and yet I still have to go to work and wear one mask for an 8+ hour day. As somebody who works in a factory, I can tell you that mask gets hot, it gets sticky, and I'm only given one. That's disgusting. You can smell your own breath. You can smell is it carbon monoxide or dioxide? I should know that, but for some reason I can't put
Well,
them
the
two.
carbon monoxide is the one where like you if you're like in the garage and you put your car on, that's carbon dioxide is what you exhale.
So that's the one. You can smell that getting back into your lungs by the fourth hour of the day, and you can just start feeling different. And as a result, I mean, you can ask for a face shield instead of a mask, but I mean, that gets in the way. It's bulkier, sticks out more, makes your job harder. So, but it all boils down to the fact that I don't think we need it. And I mean, if you want to make other people feel protected, fine. But why do I have to wear it? Why is it being mandated for everyone just because a few people are afraid that it's still out there? So, I mean, it's the same thing with the politics. I don't see good parties, I don't see good options, so I just stay away from it. COVID, I don't see it being real. Well, even when it was real, it even didn't seem to be as drastic and as important as it was led to believe. So I just stuck to what I knew. It wasn't affecting me. I don't go out sneezing on people or coughing on people to begin with, so I'm not going to put on a mask unless I absolutely have to.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I have to put on a mask to go to work. I don't put on a mask, I'm not allowed to work. I'm not allowed to work, I'm fired. That's only going to last for what, a couple months? Then I'm homeless.
Hmm.
I don't really have many options. But if I don't have to shop at Menards and wear a mask, then by all means, I don't have to shop at Menards, right?
Hmm. Do you like at work and stuff, right? You work at a oh, man, I have to stop. We have to stop soon because I could keep going forever. But yeah, one last thing, and I swear I'm done. Is do you like when you're at work? Are a lot of those the people that you work with? Do they tend to be more conservative, and do they talk about politics? And what do they talk about? What's the big issue?
Well, I've worked with a couple different groups within my uh, workplace in the last month. My direct group that I'm actually assigned to seem to be a little bit more liberal than the other group I've been working with. They feel like the masks are necessary. They feel like, if the company wants to enforce them, you should just wear them and deal with it. But the other group, they seem to be having a different side of things. They feel the masks aren't necessary, and as soon as we can take them off, we're taking them off. So, uh, personally, I feel like that boils back down to circumstance, though. I mean,
Hmm.
on my main group, it's better. Air circulates better. You don't work nearly as long. Everything's just a little bit cleaner. In this new location I've been at, it's hotter, poor air circulation. We work a couple hours longer every day. I'm not sure if that has any direct correlation to how they feel politically, but I will note that the differences are very different, like the difference between A through Z and 1 through 9.
Hmm.
One side is
Interesting.
alphabets and the other one's numbers. One sees all the political squabbles, if you will, your A through Z's, and the other one are just seeing the statistics that prove the facts are either real or fabricated.
Hmm.
Me personally, I just go with what I can see. I'm not really one to go on faith alone because the faith of the people is supposed to be your news media. I stopped watching that a long time ago, and I'm
Yeah,
going to have to
yeah.
say I believe a whole lot more in humanity if I don't watch the news in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah, me too, man. I'm in the same. Do you have any movies? Last thing, do you have any movies you'd recommend?
Oh,
Just one. Just one.
not sure if I've seen any new ones per se that you might actually be interested in. I'm not sure what the newest movies are. I don't really go to the movie theaters. So I'd have to ask you first if you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh no, that's on Netflix though. It's on Netflix.
That's a trick question actually. There's two. There's the animated version and there's the live action. The animated
Oh.
version has 3 seasons and it's considered to be better. However, the live action is the first season, all scrunched into about a 1 hour movie, but it's a lot worse. But again, your opinion can be differed based on which one you watch first.
Mm.
It's very similar to the discussion we've been having. So if I had to recommend a movie, I would recommend you, if you can do it, try to watch the first episodes maybe of the animated version, and then try to watch the first 30 minutes or so of the live action, and see if you can formulate a fair opinion based on that little data.
Interesting. So the 3 episodes of the animated one first,
The,
and then then watch the movie of the live action.
right, but try to watch the same amount of the movie as you did in the animated version.
An hour, you said.
Now that might be a little tricky because remember the movie itself, the live action, is the entire first season, also known as the Book of Water. The animated version, I mean, that first season is about 20 episodes. So, for the most part, your best option would be to watch, 1 through 5 of the episodes, maybe, and then watch the entire movie. It might spoil some of what happens in the animated version, but again, as someone who watched the animated version first and then found out about this live action, and honestly, I had to sit through it twice. First time I sat through it, I made it about 5 minutes, and I said no. Then I came back to it, I think, a month later, and I said, I am going to do this. I did not like it at all.
You tortured yourself.
I did, but I had to get both views. I'm not somebody who can just submit my opinion based on one side of a story. I've got to see it from both aspects. I got to see it from the aspect of the guy who ran and the guy who shot. Because otherwise you're only going to see what they want you to see. And that you're not going to get anywhere doing that. You might as well just be what they call a sheep. And right now we've got a lot of those, it seems.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I am going to post the movie that I recommend to at least it's very timely these days. It's the movie called The Hate You Give. Have you ever heard of this?
I don't think I have, no.
It's a good family drama that deals with kind of these protests, but through the eyes of like a young black girl, and it's really good. I did not expect it to be good, but it's really intense and well written, and you care about all the characters, even the antagonists, and it's just a great human story. And I really recommend it to you.
And where would I find that one?
That's on Netflix too. Netflix or Amazon, I think. So
a couple ways to check that real quick.
So I'll post that on the description below. And well, Andrew, dude, that was great, man. That was freaking a blast.
I like talking.
Yeah,
I'd like to talk to the people on my team, but I don't know what they're doing. They just don't seem to be chatty.
Well, to each their own, I guess. Some people like their time to themselves.
Maybe they're just busy. I mean, it is just a game to them, possibly. And even though it is a game technically to me, I hold a different aspect of it. But then again, I also hold a higher position in the team. Like I said at the beginning of our conversation, our leader is absent. They don't talk at all. And they are just minimally active in events. Me, on the other hand, I score usually at the highest, and I'm the only one who seems to give out notifications, reminders, and even just extra information. So, you said it was called The Hate You Give?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Let's see here. Nope. I see something called The First March. They've got it. They've got it pre-picked. They've got it like, what's the word?
At the top, queued up.
They've got it predicted for the typing in of it. So I guess it's a commonly looked up title recently, but sadly the first movie that comes up is called The First March, or just First March.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe it's on Amazon or something.
I'll be able to find it that way at least. At least now I know what it's called.
All right. Well, I am heading to bed, Andrew. I'm gonna as soon as it's up and I'm awake, I will send it over to you, and you can look back and watch yourself.
We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, right. And of course, if you have if you ever want to like get back in touch and have an interview or not interview, I keep saying interview, a conversation, let me know. Okay. It was a blast.
I've got your email. I appreciate it.
Cool,
Thank you.
man. All right. See ya.
Take care.